Have you ever stopped to think about where the relentless pursuit of desire can take us? The myth of Aphrodite, the goddess of love, reveals a dark and dangerous side of unbridled lust. While many see her as the embodiment of beauty and passion, her betrayal of Hephaestus is a clear warning about the destructive power of uncontrolled passions. In a world where desire seems to be glorified at every turn, are we blind to the consequences? Aphrodite, with all her charm, shows us that blindly following our impulses can lead to paths from which there is no return. Do you want to understand how this myth still resonates in our daily lives and what we can learn from it? Let's dive into this story and discover together. Aphrodite, known for her dazzling beauty, faced a delicate situation in her marriage to Hephaestus. Though bound to him, the relationship did not fulfill her emotionally. The goddess of love, despite her efforts to keep up appearances, felt trapped with a husband she had no true connection with. This scenario reflects what many people experience in modern relationships, where appearance and social status cannot fill the emotional void. When thinking about how Aphrodite dealt with this situation, we can reflect. How many times do we choose the easier path without confronting our own feelings? Faced with this frustration, Aphrodite sought comfort in Ares, the god of war. Their relationship, besides challenging the norms of Olympus, was also a reflection of the uncontrollable passions that can arise in any context. It's a clear example of how even divine figures are not immune to impulses and desires. In everyday life, how many times do we let emotions carry us away, risking what we value most? The affair between Aphrodite and Ares was not just a love adventure, but a warning about the dangers of not dealing with our feelings openly. But it's important to remember that no matter how much emotions guide us, the consequences are inevitable. Aphrodite's infidelity, once discovered, brought shame and judgment not only to her but also to Ares. Just like in the myth, the choices we make in life often affect not only ourselves but also those around us. And then, we find ourselves trapped in complicated situations, just like Aphrodite. Now, imagine how the story could have been different if she had chosen to confront her feelings from the start. Aphrodite never really wanted to marry Hephaestus. It was a marriage arranged by Hera, in an attempt to resolve the dispute between the gods seeking the attention of the goddess of love. Aphrodite's beauty caused so much turmoil in Olympus that Hera decided to end the competition, forcing her to marry the god of the forge. Imagine, even in the realm of gods, unions were not always based on true love, and how often this reflects in human stories where interest or duty outweigh genuine feelings. What makes this union even more intriguing is the choice of Hephaestus, a god who, despite his unparalleled skills, was considered lame and awkward, completely contrasting with Aphrodite's physical perfection. This scenario reinforces an old lesson. Opposites don't always attract, and a lack of affinity can create irreparable chasms. However, when observing this myth, it's worth questioning. How many times are we pressured into relationships or commitments that don't align with our true desires? This forced marriage did not bring happiness to Aphrodite and soon planted the seed of dissatisfaction. Although reluctant, she initially accepted her fate, but it is impossible to ignore the fact that her union with Hephaestus was doomed to fail from the start. This type of relationship, where desires are ignored, inevitably crumbles. Thus, the question arises, how could she find a way to escape this web of unhappiness? As time passed, Aphrodite could no longer hide her dissatisfaction. It was at this moment that the irresistible Ares, the god of war, entered her life, offering the intensity and passion she so desperately craved. Their relationship, full of adrenaline and desire, flourished in the shadows, far from the prying eyes of the gods. It is curious to note how, even for Aphrodite, intense emotions and secret encounters seemed more attractive than the formalities of a loveless marriage. This makes us reflect on how, in our own lives, we are often drawn to the forbidden. However, this affair was not just a romantic escape. Ares represented everything Hephaestus was not: bold, energetic, and impulsive. For Aphrodite, this contrast brought a sense of freedom that she did not find in her marriage. But here's the point. How often, in seeking what is missing in our lives, do we end up taking too many risks? Aphrodite, in her involvement with Ares, was aware of the danger but chose to ignore it. And how many times do we do the same, pursuing momentary pleasure without considering the consequences? However, as they say, nothing stays hidden forever. The affair between Aphrodite and Ares was a secret only until the right moment. It's almost like those real-life situations where the truth, no matter how much we try to cover it up, eventually comes to light. And what happens when we are finally confronted by our choices? Aphrodite and Ares were about to discover that, in Olympus, secrets rarely stay hidden for long. When Hephaestus found out about the affair between Aphrodite and Ares, his first reaction was anger, but he was not known for temper tantrums. As the god of the forge, Hephaestus preferred to plan his revenge with the same precision with which he forged his masterpieces. He created a magical net, thin and almost invisible, but strong enough to trap any god or mortal. This ingenuity shows that, even in the face of betrayal, Hephaestus did not let himself be driven by impulse, but instead crafted a trap that, for him, would be the perfect revenge. How many times, when faced with situations that hurt us, do we fail to think calmly and end up acting without considering the consequences? Hephaestus's trap worked perfectly. When Aphrodite and Ares were together, unsuspecting in their passionate meeting, the net fell over them, capturing them in the very act of betrayal. It was a humiliating scene, not only for the lovers but also for everyone who was about to witness it. Hephaestus didn't just want to expose the infidelity. He also wanted to make them suffer publicly. This strategy makes us reflect on how, often, revenge can be more damaging when it exposes someone's flaws in front of others. But is it really worth causing such humiliation just to ease an emotional wound? The gods of Olympus were summoned to witness the moment. The shame was colossal, and the image of Aphrodite and Ares trapped in that net became a symbol that even the gods are subject to paying for their actions. However, although Hephaestus got his revenge, what did he really gain from it? This is where the story makes us reflect. Does revenge truly bring peace? Or in the end, does everyone lose in some way? Despite all the public humiliation and the complications that resulted from Aphrodite's affair with Ares, something unexpected was born from this union. Eros, the god of love and desire. Interestingly, even from turbulent situations, new opportunities and unexpected paths can arise. Eros would become a symbol of love, but also of how desire can both unite and divert hearts. Often, life surprises us by offering blessings where we least expect them. What can we learn from this? That even amidst chaos, there is always room for new creations and opportunities. The birth of Eros brought a twist to the narrative of Aphrodite and Ares. After all, love is a powerful and unpredictable force, something that even the gods cannot fully control. Just as Eros scattered his arrows, sparking unexpected passions, he also reminded both gods and mortals that love is as much a gift as it is a responsibility. In the modern world, this duality still holds true. The pursuit of love can bring both joy and unforeseen challenges. But are we ready to deal with the consequences of following our hearts? Over time, Eros would become a central figure in myths, connecting gods and mortals through his invisible arrows. Although born from a union marked by betrayal and scandal, he represented a new chance to explore human emotions in all their complexity. As we look at this story, we can ask ourselves, how many times, in dealing with our own mistakes or those of others, do we find something valuable that we would never have imagined? The story of Eros teaches us that not everything is as simple as it seems at first glance. Now that you've learned about this story of Aphrodite and its consequences, take a moment to reflect. How have your own passions guided your choices? Are you following a path that could bring more pain than satisfaction in the long run? The myth teaches us that even the gods, when blindly surrendering to their desires, end up suffering devastating consequences. What can you do differently today to avoid falling into the traps that Aphrodite faced? The knowledge you've gained now has the power to change your life, if you choose to apply it. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to continue exploring myths and lessons that will help you reflect and grow with every step.